Hey y'all, welcome to this week's episode of Full Disclosure, Navigating Your Career as a Person Who Stutters. My name is Carl, and this is a part 2 to my video that I did last week. Last week's video was geared to employers, and it was how to support your employees when asking for accommodations at work. And this week is for you, the employee or person who stutters. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to ask for accommodations at work, give you some examples of how I and others have done that in the past. And in the bonus content, I'm going to leave you with some additional ways, additional resources of how you might do this as well. So first things first, and the first tip I'm going to give you is check and see what your HR team has internally, if there's any internal company documents or information. A lot of times companies will have an intranet or employee portal or something like that. I would just search job accommodations or something like that and see if they have information that's posted on how you can request accommodations on the job. For some companies, there's a formal process that you have to follow. Smaller organizations may not have this structure in place, but it's always good practice to see what written documentation is on file. That way you can be sure that you're following company protocol and procedure. The second point I'd emphasize is that accommodations can come in many different forms. As a person who stutters, it doesn't always look like, speaking less or trying to modify which work environments you may have to speak in. It can be a lot of different things. In my previous video that I shared that was geared towards employers, I mentioned folks on at jobs who do virtual meetings and they use maybe Teams or Slack or Zoom. Utilizing that chat feature if there's a comment you want to share, or if there's a question that you have, or using that raise hand feature in order to be called upon to speak. These are accommodations that you can use at work that are probably free and already built in, and ways that can help you work more comfortably. I'm going to share with you an accommodation that I got at work that at the time I didn't really think of it as an accommodation, but looking back on it, I can see, hey, this made my work a lot easier. It took some stress off of me, and I was still able to get my job done. So in one of the earlier jobs in my career, I worked on a team and we had to call into meetings, and we typically have these large meetings that were a lot of different teams across the company. And we actually had one of those systems that sat on a desk where you have to punch in the number, and when you join the meeting there'd be a beep and you were expected to announce yourself. This filled me with so much anxiety and so much dread, because you'd have to speak your name on cue for 50 to 100 people or more. And so, as I said, this was not something I really enjoyed doing, and I didn't mention it to my teammate, but she actually, whenever the two of us would be joining the meeting together, she would say, hey, this is Timothy and Carl calling in from blank team. And this was a huge weight off of my shoulders. I didn't have to, be stressed out, hours or 5 minutes before the call, knowing I'd have to do this. In kind of exchange, what I would do for her to support her, we had a coworker who, every month had to give us data in order for us to complete a part of our job. And this coworker was really notorious for, you'd have to chase her around to get the information you needed. And, I guess I just was able to track her down. And so, I did that part of the job that was something that, was not the most enjoyable thing, but I was good at doing it. And so that's one way that I was able to get an accommodation that wasn't a formal accommodation, but was something that made my job easier and also supported my teammate as well in the process. I'll give you one last example, and it's one of my favorite stories that I've kind of had in my time helping other people who stutter. But when I was on the We Stutter at Work team, our team, plug for the practice interview program, it's a fantastic resource. If you haven't taken advantage of it, I encourage you to do that. The practice interviews are all done by people on the We Stutter at Work team, all people who stutter. Great resource to help you prepare for interviews. Anyway, end of the plug. There was a person who was working with us. She'd reached out to our team to do a practice interview, and she had an upcoming call with a recruiter. And typically recruiter calls are shorter in length. The recruiter just wants to, kind of check off some information, make sure that you're, really a right fit, and, they're typically a little bit shorter. This particular recruiter said, hey, I just need about 15 minutes of your time. The call will be quick. It should be short and sweet. The person I was working with, I was super proud of her because she actually reached out to the recruiter and she said, hey, I'm a person who stutters, and so, it may take me a little bit longer. Is it possible that we could actually meet for 30 minutes instead of that 15 minutes? I want to make sure I have enough time to prepare. And the recruiter responded back and she said, yeah, that's no problem at all. She extended that meeting from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And this did a lot of great things. One, the person asked for the accommodations. Two, they did it directly and said what they needed and why they needed it. And three, it provided education for that recruiter to know, like, hey, there might be people who, this time limit is not sufficient, and I want to be able to best support them. By having this extra time, the person I was working with, she felt more comfortable going into that interview because she knew that she wasn't going to be time pressured by only having 15 minutes. And, it gave her the freedom of having disclosed before the interview as well. So she felt more comfortable going into it as well. So I say all of that to say, ask for what you need. Understand that sometimes accommodations may not follow the traditional or customary process, and really just also check with your employee or employer to see if they have processes in place of how you would request those accommodations. Okay, that's it. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope this series has been helpful. If there's anything that I've talked about that you want more guidance on or want me to delve a little bit deeper into, or if there's topics specifically that you want to hear about and that you're curious to learn about, let me know in the comments. I'm excited to continue doing this series. I hope it's been helpful to you and maybe your organization or your company. And until next time, y'all take care and stay safe. Be good. All right, bye.